How's it doing now? Okay. Yeah, some reason Discord decided to change my audio device. Don't know why. Happens. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, today I think I'm gonna handle like the kind of starting steps of getting into sporting combos. Basically like we have to get canceling working. Otherwise, you have to make everything a link. If you don't know what a link is, that's fine, but I can explain it here in a bit. But canceling lets us like interrupt existing moves in their animation to go into the next move, shortening the time between subsequent hits, which makes combos actually possible. Anyway, yeah, I'll give people some time to you know, get here. Until then, we could chat just kind of roughly about some stuff. Sweet. Yo, thank you all for coming. Definitely appreciate it. But yeah, until then, just kind of doing, some rough discussion of what this combo business is. Yeah, just talking a little bit about my strategy for how we're going to support combos. Obviously, we have to have action canceling again because otherwise every hit reaction needs to be long enough so that you can recover from your current attack and then attack again before the player can do something. That kind of would count as a combo, and typically that's a link. Um, but actually, what we really want to have is ability to interrupt existing actions and into other actions that lets us much more quickly do a sequence of attacks. That way, we don't have to actually have reactions that are super long because being stuck in a super long reaction as a player is miserable, of course. Okay, and there are obviously other reasons, balance reasons, these kind of things, but I'm just talking about from the kind of user perspective here, player perspective. Yeah, many games have what's called special attacks and special cancels, which basically there's a rule that says you can interrupt your normal attack, things like kind of like standing punches, standing kicks, into something more substantial, like maybe Ryu's Hadoken or you know Chun-Li's lightning legs kind of thing. And then certain games have even more restrictive rules on that. So most of our games don't let you cancel every normal attack into every special move, but then other games do allow that. And on top of that, we will get to it here in a bit, where like certain normal moves will be able to be canceled into other normal moves, and typically this is called like chain canceling. Um, the Vampire Savior series or Darkstalker series is kind of famous for this, right? You had like the Magic series where you go from light punch to light kick, or light punch to medium punch, or as long as you're attacking with from a punch to a kick, or that was equal or stronger strength, or a punch that was stronger strength, then you can get a chain in that game. It's also true for the most part in the Marvel series, Marvel vs. Capcom series, and any of the like Street Fighter vs. X-Men stuff. I don't know all the particular rules of all those games, but speaking generally, that's the case. They have these things called chain canceling. And then, all that being said, there's also going to be the need to introduce a way to basically extend a hit reaction. And one way to do this is we can make super long hit reactions on the ground, right? Well, that's kind of uninteresting. What's even more interesting would be to launch the characters into the air and juggle them. So they're stuck in a hit reaction for a long time. And yeah. Uh, and that way you can like combo with moves you couldn't combo with. So for example, you can like launch a character with a particular special move and then combo into a normal attack as they're falling. Right. I hope everybody is familiar with like juggling. Obviously, the Tekken series is very famous for this. Um, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, a lot of juggling. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we got a few people in here. Yeah, okay. I think we can kind of get started. I don't want to just ramble for too long because I think you're all familiar with all this stuff. Everyone here who is here, at least. Maybe not the people watching the stream archive later, but yeah. Okay, well, Yeah, I think today we're just going to kind of cover special attacks and canceling. It's not something too super complicated. The kind of general strategy is we'll have a we're going to start in the most simplest case, which is all normal attacks. Currently, we only have normal attacks in the game, despite making a special move that requires um, a quarter circle forward input. They're all kind of marked as the same kind of attack. What we're going to want to do is we're going to differentiate between the normal attacks and the special attacks so that we can have a part, we can have some code in our game loop that goes, okay, is this a special attack? Are you performing it while also performing an existing attack? Then canceling it. And then we can add in additional conditions like, okay, the move's only special cancelable when an attack hits. And on top of that, we could say, okay, it's only special cancelable between these frames, and maybe like every action can specify the number of frames where it's cancelable. The reason why we add that in is, of course, twofold, right? It makes it so that we can balance things out where things are not too strong, but also like you don't want players to accidentally cancel their attacks too early, like before an attack hits. Then they're trying to get a combo, but they're a little too fast and they interrupt their existing attack. Yep. That's what we're doing. Comic Man. That's the goal. So previously we introduced the input buffer so that we actually have like a kind of special move now, but it's not really marked as a special move. It's only special because the input requires a motion, right? Okay. So I just want to boot it up real quick so we can take a quick look at like what we have so far, right? Okay. I don't know why the build's taking so long. Alrighty. Okay, so we have this. And quarter circle forward will give us, or what did I put the input for that? Oh, there we go. So right now, I can't cancel. Oh, I should add a wall to the game. I forgot we don't have a wall. We'll do that at some point. Yeah, we'll add a wall. Oof, can I get it over them? Push them back. So yeah. So I can't I can press this as much as I want, but it doesn't cancel. Even if I want to like quarter circle forward after attack, it won't come out. I'll just get this. I'll do this. It won't come out. So that's the first thing we're going to want to make work is attacking and then doing a quarter circle forward and pressing the attack button to get the cancel. And so our strategy is to mark the special move as a special and then have some part of our game loop that actually checks only the special moves and lets you interrupt, which means transitioning into another move. In addition, we're going to want to not do that during hit stop, because if you interrupt your hit stop to transition to another move, as we've seen before, it can look strange, right? And you want that hit stop to like express that full impact of the attack. You don't want to suddenly in the middle hit stop, pause in the startup of another action. So that's what we're going to do. And first we have to like modify our action data structure, right? If we just go through like our character data.zig, right? We have I think it's called action is a struct. Action is, what do we call it? Action properties. Okay, that's the action properties. And we currently have duration is loop, vulnerable, hitbox, attack box, We don't really have a type, right? And honestly, there's kind of two ways we could do it. We can mark the action as a type, say a special, or we could have a list of potential actions you could perform on the character itself. That's just the special list. We're probably going to want the ability to like look at action currently running to see if it's a special or another type in the future, like maybe a super. So we might as well go ahead and just mark that down and then loop through all our actions. Okay, and that's kind of the most straightforward way to go about it, I believe. And yeah, so we could make an enum of different types, and I think that's probably what we want to do. Do we have an enum on our structure? No yet. So I'm kind of afraid that we don't have a serialization for enum yet, and honestly, I don't want to do that today because yeah, I forgot we have not done enums yet. So what I'm going to do is support bool And in the future, when we add more types, it's either going to be a special or normal. In the future, when we add more types, I'm going to investigate how to serialize an enum. And it's mostly because we're reading our data from JSON, and we need to. We've supported our own JSON serialization kind of directly, as opposed to like having some automated thing. Yeah, and I believe enum structures we have not supported, so I'm not going to get to that today. Okay, so we're going to add a bool called isSpecial, and knowing in the future we're going to go through and change this. So we're going to have a default, it being special, not special, which means it's a normal by default. I'm just going to run the game, see if it breaks anything with our serialization, because we're adding a new field to our data. So it looks like it's fine. We'll just get the default value. And hopefully I can go through and add the special flag to our character data. Is that the one we want? It's in Funny Game. No, that's the wrong one. I probably should delete that. Character JSON. It's the test character one. That's it. Okay, so we have our special move and images. And oh, sorry. That's not. We don't want the image sequences. We want the actual special. So the special. There it is. So duration. Do I have any bools on it? Okay. Let's see. So we did what we hit is looping. I don't think anything is using is looping, is it? But hold on. Oh wait, we are. Okay, it's fine. Okay, special. We want the special. We want to add is special true. Okay, that shouldn't break anything. Our building is so fast, I might as well just build every time. Okay. There we go. Nothing seems broken right now. I can still perform the special. Also, I need to work on aligning the special move image. You see how it like is a little too far forward. I'll deal with that later. Okay, so we have this special property now. Simple enough, I think, to go through and add a section error code which checks all the actions and see if it's cancelable. And here's another architectural decision, right? One thing we could do is we could go to our state machine code, right? And we have this section where we run through all the current states or the current actions. Make the next state current. If we want to use this kind of a more generic, sorry, not the handle transitions, but if we wanted to make this kind of more generic state machine, maybe adding the special cancels directly to the state machine loop is not the best thing, right? As you can see here. Reset the timeline for actions at loop. Okay, so yeah, where is this? Handle returning to idle looping, and that's not what I want. Advanced timeline when there's no hit stop. Yeah, here's our update. So one thing we could do is we could add this like a loop that goes through all our actions here and check, right? But that would make it kind of less generic. Maybe not less generic is what we want for this case. And some games I have added like a cancel right at the beginning, but the other choice is to go through and add the cancel to our normal attacks directly, so that only normal attacks can be interrupted. So maybe you don't want a reaction to be interrupted, right? Because if you just add the check here, you also need to add a bunch of additional conditions, like are you currently in a reaction, because you don't want your reaction to be interrupted. Are you currently in a jump or whatever? You don't want a jump special, sorry, ground special beat to activate. Yo, what's up, Mighty Sandwich? So I think the better choice for now is to directly support our cancels in the normal attacks themselves, because that's a currently the only thing we support actually. Sorry, so it's currently the only thing we currently support. I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, we don't really have any other actions that need to be canceled. It's only normal attacks. That's kind of what I wanted to say. So if we currently go to like our idle state, for example, right, we have these like common idle transitions, and you can see that we have a jump tack transitions, we have the normal ground transitions basically, and these include things like where is it? Let's see where our special is. Yeah, so we have this common attack transitions currently that lets us just like specifically go into the special or the normal depending on the input, what the input is. And just kind of like show you what we could do is what if I just call this function that lets us transition to either one of these during a normal attack, right? So which currently is just called the attack action, right? We have this, and we'll just make it the lowest priority by calling it the very last. So we could do that and then run the game. This should give us the ability to cancel, like a simple cancel mechanism, right? So I can just keep interrupting the attack like this, right? Just mashing it. And funny enough, there are moves in games like in Street Fighter 2, if you mash like light attacks, you can just like keep doing it. And if I actually mash this fast enough, I will never hit because I keep interrupting the beginning, right? And I can show you just turning hitboxes. You can just never see it. And just to simplify it, I'll pause the game for you real quick. Hold attack, go forward, and hold it again. I interrupted it. Repeat. That can go on forever, right? But that's actually not what we want. And what we want actually is only to hit to occur on attack. We also don't want the normal to go back into itself. Okay, so one of the other things we could do is make a new function, right, and list all our special moves. Or we could loop through all our actions and see if this is special because we've marked it previously, right? So special cancel transitions, right? That's what we're going to call this for now. And first thing we can do is remove the normal attack. Oh, sorry, we're going to remove the normal attack, so we can't perform that. And go back to our attack and replace it. And I hope everything I've done so far is followable. So nothing's too hard to follow, right? So now, if I mash, I can't just combo, right? But if I do special, I should be able to do the special. Or did I mess it up? Up. Was input put? Okay. What did I mess up here? This should work. What did I mess up here? So I can do it normally, but I can't. Oh, yeah, I can do it. There we go. I can cancel. During hit stop, it's much easier, as you can see. But we don't want to interrupt the beginning of the move right now. So we're going to have to add a... Well, first of all, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. For now, we're going to want to... we can loop through all the potential actions, right? So I forgot if we have quick access to all our actions, to be honest. Because so far, we really haven't had an action list to loop through in the first place. It is included in our character data, but there's no point in the game where I think we're looping through all the actions. And so I forgot if we actually included in our context here. So I'm going to put it on back burner because it's not as important. So, previously we added the is special flag. But I forget what data structures we have access to in these contexts, right? So the tricky thing is we have this transition to state that takes a particular enum that gives you kind of the type, not even the type, just the specific name for a specific action, and those actions have to exist in the enum. Because if I go to, well, sorry, if I go to what is it called, the combat state ID, combat state ID, yeah, we have that. We have a list of, well, that's not what that is. Yeah, so we just have a list of very specifically named actions, and then we have generic actions. So special is actually it's something we support on the code side directly. So it allows us to do this, recognize it, and honestly, we may have not even needed the is special because we have this enum. I forget exactly how we set up everything. I think we pull in the name and then we just assign this. We can review that in a bit. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to say, screw it. We're just going to focus on canceling. Sometimes I do this stuff and I kind of get ahead of myself and I think, okay, we have these things available already. Oh no, we actually haven't supported that yet. So we need to do something else to do what I'm trying to do today. as opposed to like completely interrupt what I'm trying to do and go support this part now. Okay. It's been like a year since I worked on this, so I forgot, where we had gotten to in a lot of parts of the architecture side of things. Okay, let's see. So we want to add on hit only for the cancels. So do we have do we have any state that indicates to us in our context, right, that says, hey, have we hit our opponent? I honestly forgot. So we need to go check the collision system. So on hit, what do we do? Collision. Okay. All right. Gather push boxes. We do that. I don't want to gather. I want to see hit. Where's hit? Oh, yeah. Everything's called hit boxes. So does the outline give us a more clear image of what's going on in this code base? Collision is the vulnerable, blah, 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 blah. Init collision phase. Okay, collision phase. There we go. Don't let actions. Eventually, we get hitboxes overlap. We append this hit event. And so we process hit events, I think, in the reaction processor. Is that where we do it? Yeah, we go through all these, get all the information from the attacker and the defender. On the defender, we apply like hit stop, knockback on the on the attacker. Man, I'm coughing here. On the attacker, we only apply hit stop. I don't think we ever had a flag for indicating whether a move just hit. Okay, so going step by step, we're going to add the flag that indicates we just hit. So, and there's going to be some issue with just doing this simple thing of turning it on hit when hits occur. Don't know what that sound is, but anyway. We'll deal with that problem in the future. So right now we only have total on our stats component. We only have total hit stun, total guard, and this is not something I actually really care about for gameplay. Do we have any action flags component? Wow, it's very loud upstairs. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if y'all can hear that. So do we have any particular component we can add this to that would make logical sense? We have the action flags component. Well, we have the jump flags that keeps track of things like which direction we've jumped. For the time being, I'm going to add a hit flag and call it. We're going to start simple and call it just attack hit. Is this going to be a bool, right? Oh, wait, we already have attack has hit. Is that a reaction component? Sorry, did we ever set that anywhere? That's not a reaction component. So we do have attack has hit. Okay. And we do that to make sure it doesn't hit more than once. So we can actually reuse that for now. I'm not always super for reusing things like this for multi-purpose, because this is used to prevent attacks from coming out again. Or sorry, for actually colliding again. And there's a reason why reusing it is going to be a problem. For example, multi-hitting attacks, you might have to reset this, and then if you reset this and the cancel doesn't work, so maybe that's not the best thing to do. So maybe we don't do that. Maybe we do something else. Maybe we go see where this attack is hit is initialized. Oh, where did that go? Oh, there we go. So attack has hit. That's useful for the collision boxes, right? We can say something like can special cancel, right? Can special cancel. Can special cancel, and that gets turned on. For example, maybe when an attack collides, right? The name doesn't really give necessarily context, so maybe that's bad. So this is a kind of great context name. Attack has hit. So we could become over specialized, right? Attack has hit for special cancel. A very long name, but it makes it very clear what it's for. So maybe that gets turned on when an attack is hit. So let's just go to see where our attack has hit. It gets turned on. Allow special canceling when an attack has hit. Oops, let's see. Do that, make that true. There we go. And direction attack has hit for special cancel. Oh, wow, it's really noisy, distracting. I don't know what they're doing up there. Okay, sweet. So we have this now, and we're gonna have to reset it. We're gonna have to reset it at some point. Otherwise, we're gonna run into a problem. So when we do a state transition, we need to reset it. In the future, there's gonna be a lot more potential variables like this. If they don't get reset when you transition to the action, you're gonna have problems. Like if the special flag is kept true, right? I can show you what happens here actually. So just for now, I'm gonna not have it set. When we do a transition, I'm just gonna turn that off. Okay. So you have these kind of stateful problems, right? So if this is left on when we state special cancel, there will be problems, and I can demonstrate it here. But anyway, for the time being, I shouldn't be able to like whiff cancel things. So, oh, actually, I forgot to add the condition. That's we have to add the condition first. So, yeah, go back to our common states where we have that special cancel transition. So, we're going to check to see if context.input component special cancel. Ooh, okay, it's not input component. Sorry, it's a reaction component. Attack has hit for special cancel. So, and then we're going to return false when this is not true. Just get out of there because there's no reason to check when we're there. What's going on here? Oh, maybe it's just a weird IntelliSense kind of bug. What? Expected after identifier. Where is that? Oh, return false. Return false. Okay. Okay. Can't special cancel when an attack hasn't hit. That makes sense. If the code itself wasn't clear enough. Sometimes you want to give context. So now I shouldn't be able to special cancel. Well, the special is coming out sometimes. Maybe because my buffer is too big. Anyway, but now I can special cancel and hit. But the problem is, since I left that variable on during state transitions, I can special cancel during my on whiff effectively. Well, I'm not that good at it, but let's go ahead and fix that bug by turning it off. And I believe that's on our state machine. Yeah. Okay, so that should give us like a special cancel that works. And that's really just the very, very kind of initial steps of supporting combos, right? We got something that counts as I don't know why that's coming out. Maybe that's another bug we need to look at, but okay. Let's frame step it here because I think I'm getting something I'm not expecting. Oh. So that's hits. And then I'll do down. I wish I had an input display here. I should do that. Down, forward, forward. And then I'll press attack. Now we're doing a special move. Okay. Oh, it's much easier to special cancel after hit stop. And this is actually a particular issue that I want to get into about this. We supported special canceling, but you can see when we have hit stop, right? It's like, what is it? It's like 9 additional frames between when you can act again. And I don't think we limited things by hit stop yet. Let's try it. So I'm gonna press attack, then I'm gonna press down, down, forward, forward, and attack. And now hit stop will occur. And will we get the special move? Special move doesn't come out. Okay, let's try it again. And wait until the hit stop has occurred to try to cancel. So I'm press down, down, forward, forward, and wait a few frames to do attack button. Okay. Now I'm going to press the attack button. We're still in hit stop. And you see we're stuck in this frame. Moving forward, then eventually it comes out. So that's kind of the next thing we want to prevent. So the way things are set up now, we need to actually, per transition, check to see if we're in hit stop or not. And I thought we had a check for hit stop here somewhere. We don't? I thought we couldn't transition during. So we can't. I thought we had like a limit on transitioning during hit stop. Yeah, so hold on to your butts. I thought we did support this, preventing things from happening during hit stop. We have a reaction system, our game, our collision system, something, something, something. We don't advance the timeline. What do we do here? I really thought we had added something special for hit stop. Physics, yeah. We did that. Huh. Apparently we did not. I thought we had something, some checks for hit stop in some places to prevent transitions. It's kind of mysterious, because I really thought we did. Okay. Now, we're doing pretty good on time here, so I can afford to go a little slower. Okay. Well, that's the basic idea. We're just going to check to see if hit stop is less than or equal to 0 in our transition. So back to common states. Go back to our special transition. So I believe we can just go, we can say, we're just going to add, you know, just to make things more clear, I'm going to separate these conditions. Makes the function a little longer vertically, but it does make it very, very clear what the behavior should be. So, because I could combine this condition with this, or you know, wrap everything, but sometimes I just like to make it very clear for demonstration purposes. So anyway, what their comment needs to be, don't transition during hit stop, or don't cancel. Don't cancel during hit stop. So we just go, yeah, if the hit stop is greater than 0, then we don't transition. There's something we might have to be careful about depending on what our architecture is, and again, these like off by 1 errors that might add to additional frame of latency for us. Again, depending on the order of operations, if this hit stop is equal to 1, in this case it wouldn't transition, but say if our architecture had a situation where hit stop was reduced by 1 after this executed, so that on the current frame you've gone to 0. If it's fine for both like the timeline and the transitions, if it's kind of synced up, and if our check for transitioning between when the timeline ends and when a hard check for a cancel occurs, if hit stop is both still 1 at that point, is fine. But if like 1 is checked afterwards, which very may well be the case, I have to review our architecture. Then you get a situation where timeline would end, but the cancel would not lead to a transition, but the timeline ending would lead to a transition because hit stop is now 0. So we have to be very careful about that. We have to be very careful where we allow transitions, because we end up with problems like frame advantage being skewed depending on the situation. One of the difficult things about fighting games, by the way. You have to be very, very careful about this stuff. I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. If not, I can demonstrate it. Okay. You constantly have to be thinking about this too when you're coding. Don't get me started on option selects. How easy it is to introduce option selects into fighting games. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, So now we won't cancel during hit stop, so we can demonstrate that pretty easily. Nope. Nope. It gave me an error. What was the issue? I have to wrap this, apparently, because my brain, it doesn't work. Okay. I'm really going to have to add an input debug so everybody can see what my pad inputs are. Would it make sense to put the input? Obviously, it would be nice to have it in the game, but maybe it makes sense to have some kind of like joystick preview or something on screen that like replicates my inputs. Anywho, maybe we didn't add any other code. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk forward. Oops, I'm gonna walk forward here. Attack, and then I'm gonna hold again. I'm gonna hold down, step forward, down, forward, forward. Step a few frames until the attack occurs. We're gonna hit stop now. I press the attack button. We don't cancel yet. And actually didn't come out. There's reasons why it may not come out. And I will discuss those here real quick. So just for posterity's sake, I'm going to go through the whole thing, start the hit stop, and then I'm going to input the attack. So down, down, forward, forward for the special. And once hit stop is done, then I'm going to press the button. And it didn't come out. That's kind of weird, right? Let's try something else. What if I start the attack, press down, down, forward. Oh, gotta attack first. Press down. Oops, do it again. Attack. Down, down, forward, forward. And then wait. Let hit stop play out. Then what if I press a button? Nothing still, huh? That's very strange, right? So let's take a quick look at our code. If hit stop is more than so I put a not on here. There we go. That was my bug. It should have been just if hit stop is greater than 0, don't allow the cancel. Not the opposite of that. Okay. So just a quick check if you want to cancel. Yeah, so I can cancel. Okay, so let's do it again. Going to attack. Down. Oop. Down, down, forward, forward. And we're going to try to do it during hit stop. So hit stop is currently active. I press the button. Doesn't come out. That's good. When hit stop ends, doesn't come out either. Well, what happens when we press the button after hit stop? Okay, let's press down, down, forward, forward. Step through. And now we're out of hit stop. If we press the button, special comes out. Okay, so what it looks like is happening is we can't actually cancel it during hit stop at all, which we don't want, right? We don't want the action actually transitioning during hit stop, but we want to buffer. So this term buffering, we want the move to buffer, right? And because we're not actually canceling during hit stop, as you can see here, we're actually doing this check for attack being pressed. And this just means it was pressed the last frame, right? And since we can't check during hit stop, we just never get the move. So now we get into the discussion about buffering, buffering specials. So we've buffered individual inputs, right? That allows us to do the special move motion. But we haven't talked about buffering like positive edge actions. There could be many layers of buffering here, right? One is that we have another buffer that records for how long each positive edge input for like the attack occurred. That's one way to go about it, right? And that's kind of so if we just go jump in this definition for was motion executed, remember we have like a loop here that goes through all the sorry. So we go through all the input buffer elements. We check to see if the number pad direction was pressed, So this whole function just basically goes through and checks to see if a sequence was pressed within a time period. But what if we think of not just the direction sequence, but a sequence of, button being pressed on and then sort of off and on? Well, our original input buffer supports all the actual states of all the buttons, right? Either on or off. It just checks to see if they're on or off. So we could do the same kind of thing, right? We could go through and see if there's a point where you went from off to on within X number of frames. Right now when we do a check, there's a motion executed, but what if we go with if we do this was input pressed? You notice we're just checking the current frame and the last frame. We're not checking a specified frame in the frame before that. What if we did that? What if we said, hey, what if we just check a specified frame in the frame before? Okay, so in order for us to support this kind of input buffering, we're going to have to add a new function that does something very similar to this motion execution function, but it checks on-off states, or off to on states, state changes for the button. Okay, one thing we could do is make this super generic and make some kind of like encoding where we, say, okay, what a button press really is going from off to on in the same way that a quarter circle is going from down to down forward. We can make a super elaborate, like, again, language effectively that it could express that. In the same way that if we look at our input, well, that's not what I want to do. If we want to look at our input code, we have like, what is it here? Yeah, we have this kind of encoding. We could do that for button presses as well, right? But honestly, we really don't even need that because a button press is so generic. We know what a button press is, right? But in some ways, if you want to have like a single function that loops through all the potential encodings for a sequence of inputs, there's some value to that. So some simplicity to that. You don't have to. You can call the same function no matter what. You can say, hey, was quarter circle forward pressed within 30 frames? And then you go, oh, then was an attack button pressed within 30 frames? That would be pretty simple. But currently, our encoding only accepts integers. We'd have to like refactor this. And again, time being what it is, I don't want to spend time refactoring this stuff just to support that kind of thing. But putting that option out there. So instead, we're just going to write a function that goes through the buffer and checks to see if any input went from off to on within X frames. I think that's kind of the most straightforward manner, and it gets the point across, and it gives us what we want. Okay, hope that was all clear enough. So the function is basically going to look like this, but we're going to need a new version of this function that's like, was input pressed on frame, right? So it's going to looks like this, right? It's like, was input pressed on frame, and then we can have a frame, and it's going to be an integer, but it probably has to be usize or something. Yeah, it should be usize. Okay, just make it unsigned, because if we never, well, there might be a reason to do negative. Anyway, we'll get to that. Yeah. We could do it using offsets, so negative would make sense, but also we could use it. We could just do it. Let's just say it's a particular frame in the buffer, right? Again, we have a loop. We have a ring buffer. So depending on the game frame, which is the number of game updates that have happened, game frame represents the number of updates the game has occurred. So if the game's updated 5 times, the current game frame is 5 or 4, depending on where you're counting. Okay. Anywho, off by 1 errors. Yeah, so we're going to specify the frame. So here we have the current input up and the last input up. So instead of doing this, we need to look at the buffer, right? And I think check number pad direction gives us access to the buffer. if my memory serves me correctly. So let me go open up the input flag, like the function. No, that's not right. That's not right. Okay, it's oh, so we're just looping through the buffer here. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, there's so many ways we can write this, to be honest. I'm trying to think of the best way that's kind of the most straightforward understanding it. So we're just going to like sketch out some code real quick. We're not going to loop through the input buffer. What we're going to do instead is we're going to get the current input and the last input. So it's going to look like something like this. I'm going to say the frame, and we're going to have to fix this real quick because of the ring buffer situation. So, oof. And honestly, if you abstract this stuff away, it becomes even simpler. You could have like a buffer struct that gives you accessor functions that you just pass in the frame. It gives you the proper index, or at least the value at that index. Yeah, so this is kind of the sketch, right? We want something like var current input, oops, and then yeah, equals this, and then we want last input. Looks like something like this. It would be the frame -1. But of course we can't work, this doesn't work, right? Because it's a ring buffer and the frame doesn't actually represent an index into the buffer. So but conceptually, as long as we get this works, this should just work, right? Because it's basically the same idea, right? We're just checking a certain frame in the frame before to see if it went from off to on. Hope that makes sense. So, but we need to fix up this frame, right? We have the modulus. I always forget operator. So so we can do this kind of thing. Just take that. Let's see. Buffer index. Or just say make it like that. Buffer index, and it's going to be the length of it. Adjust limit. I don't care the adjust limit. It needs to be the instead of the index, we want the frame. Length is here just to prevent us from getting, well, we would never be negative anyway, so we actually don't need that. So we just want to make sure the frame divided modulus buffer length will give us like the proper buffer index, and there'll be the buffer index. Oop, actually I was wrong. That's fine for that, but the problem is if the frame is 0, we need to wrap around. And does wrapping around work for negatives? Always forget how each language handles some of this stuff. So I'm just going to say we're going to add it to this to be safe, and then -1 for the previous buffer index, the last buffer index. And that should give us this, and this should give us this. Be safe. That will wrap around. Just because this length gives us 0, so the -1 is effectively wrapping around. Okay, that should work. So we now have this was input pressed on frame. So we could just call this directly instead of here. But what we really need is you need to loop through X number of frames, but for the current frame, right? So one of the cool things is we can just replace. Well, maybe there'll be a reason to do that, but right now I'm not going to do that. We could replace this function and add a new argument that's like, what is the buffer time for this? You know, in fact, I'm going to do that, and I can update. I can make a default perimeter. I think Zig, I can have a default perimeter. If I'm wrong, I'm not going to do that. It almost feels Zig like not to have default perimeter. Zig default function perimeter. Default function arguments. I don't know if there is such a thing. I don't think that exists. If there isn't, okay, I don't think we have default function argument. So let's just skip that for now. When I was planning to have a default function argument so that I don't have to update all the existing function calls that call this, because how many places did we call this? But what we can do is this. Oops. So I'm actually gonna move this down. I'm gonna replace. I will replace this. But we'll get to that here in a bit. So I'm gonna have a new function that loops through all the X number of frames of the input buffer and then does a check by calling this on that particular frame. So was input pressed in frame range or something? I don't know. Was input pressed since pressed X frames ago? I don't know. Since I don't know. Was input pressed since specified frame? Was input pressed? I don't know. Was input press buffered? Okay, there we go. There was a buffered input press. There we go. That's a good name, maybe. Okay, let's make it an input component. We need the input name. Input.name. Oops, input names. And then we just need duration. I'm going to say duration. Maybe it's not the best thing to call. Or frames. Duration. Everything in our game's counted in frames, so duration is frames. Let's call it duration for now. Okay. And it didn't. And we're going to say return. So we need a loop through. We need a loop. That's obvious. And I forgot how to do Zig style integer loops. I think it's like a dot 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 notation. Oh no, it's just how do I limit? Oh no. I don't think I've ever used this style Zig loop. Okay. Zig notes. What do we have before? Sorry. Itchy. Honestly, I forgot exactly how we do like classic C style for int I equals 0, I is less than some number, I plus plus kind of things. Okay, where's our Zig notes? Zig documentation. Or I already have that here. That's Zig event. Oh, I have that saved. Okay, Zig language reference for loop. For. Okay, for items, okay. To iterate a portion of a slice, okay. To access the index of iteration, specify second condition as well. Okay, that's not what I want. I forgot how to iterate for a particular number of times. It's like I don't want to loop over items. Maybe that's for is only for items, like a list of things. Okay. Is there a while thing that's like that then? Yeah, they probably just do this, right? Maybe. So they just have var I equals this, while this is less than this. Oh yeah. I think this is how they do it. This is like the while. They have like a while loop thing, but the variable is then exposed outside of the block. I don't know if I like that. Whatever. We're just gonna skip worrying about that right now. Okay. Anywho, where is our code? Okay, so we need to use a while loop, I guess. Yep. So what we need to do is loop over X number of frames, duration number of frames. So we do that, and we need to get the current frame. So we're going to call this function, obviously with the parameters we need. Self input. Wait, do we call self with dot self? I forget how that works. I think it was this. Hold on, having brain problems at the moment. Yeah, we don't do self. Probably self dot was input press on frame, and then we do input name and duration. And if that's true, we return true. Else we return false at the end of this. Turn false. There we go. Okay. Sweet. We just need to make sure that we're passing in the right frame here. We're not actually passing in the duration here. We're passing something minus I, which is the current frame. So I starting at 0, it needs to be self dot current, get current frame, buffer, not frame. No. We need the current game frame, right? And actually, we do. I don't know if we know the game frame from this context. Crap. We have buffer index, which doesn't help us all that much. Or does it? No, buffer index is fine because buffer index is going to be the current index into the frame. So it doesn't really matter that we don't know the... It kind of matters. It kind of does matter. In this context, it doesn't matter that we're using the buffer index. So if we're actually going to want to use the actual game frame, we'll have to pass in... Yeah, we'll have to pass in the game frame through the whole thing. 'Cause we don't store it in the buffer itself, the input buffer itself. So what I mean is the component. The component only has the buffer index, our current input command. That's it. And obviously all the values in the buffer. Okay, so maybe it's kind of, if anybody's need to explain why it's okay to use the buffer index instead of using the current game frame, I will, but I don't think it's that difficult of a concept. So we'll just subtract, not duration, we subtract I from here. So first time we go over this will be the current frame because the buffer index points to the current frame. And then the next iteration, we get the previous frame and the frame before that and the frame before that and the frame before that. And so at some point if we see an actual input being pressed within that buffer window, things should just kind of work, right? It'll let us like buffer in the button press. Okay. So to put it a little more in context, like when we have hit stop, if the hit stop is 9 frames, if we're using this method, we need to have, if we intend for the move to come out after hit stop, even if the button was pressed during hit stop, we want that buffer to be at least 9 frames. Okay. What is it like usize here? Expected, oh, we need a bool. That's what's going on. I hate how it like marked this as an error. Okay. Coolio. I think that's, I don't know why my formatting is like that, but I'll keep it the same. Okay. So we should be able to replace our that's not, do I not know how to spell buffered? Am I crazy? Am I freaking crazy here? Is this not how buffered is spelled? I think buffered is spelled like this, right? Buffer reader. Yeah, that's what other people, that's what everybody else spells it like, so that's how it's spelled. Okay. Anywho, you don't just add an R to past tense. Okay, there we go. So here we are doing things. Where we're at, it was special cancel transitions. There we go. Instead of doing this thing where I'm like, hey, was input press, we do was input press buffered, and then how many frames we need. Well, our case, we need at least hit stop frames. So you can see really quickly how this is not that flexible to all kinds of different attacks. We're gonna have to implement another solution that's improved, that works in a lot more cases. But for the time being, let's just put in, say, let's give it a good leeway here. let's say 30 frames. So we have 30 frames for the button being pressed and 30 frames for special motion being pressed. And just so we don't add complications for testing the special motion, I'm going to get rid of, sorry, I'm going to add another case here. Oops. Comment this out for now. We'll go back to it. And yeah, so I'm going to get rid of the special motion input requirement just for the time being, and we're only going to check on the button press. And 30 seems a little big because I probably after the hit stop plus active time is probably too long. Let's do 15 frames. Okay, so we should be able to just press a button and get special cancel that's buffered. How are we doing on time here? I didn't want to go too much past an hour. Hour and 3 minutes, I think we're good. Once I demonstrate this, if it looks like it works, I think we'll finish up the stream. Okay, it's Coolio, and my controller's off. Oof. Okay, so just a quick check. Attack. If I attack comes out. If I delay it, it's not actually working as expected. So what did go wrong? So I'm gonna let the hit stop go through first. Then I'm going to track the input. Did it come out? What if I press it beforehand? What if we increase the buffer size? Let's go wild, let's say 30 frames. And when you run these problems, you have to kind of learn how to debug. So probably what happened is I underflowed the buffer. Probably is what's going on. Probably try to index the negative value here in the buffer. Here's the problem. I was trying to give something that was negative value because I can't pass in a negative value to this. So hold on real quick. I'll have to fix this real quick. So I'll have to do something like self.input buffer.length plus buffer index minus this. So this will prevent us from getting a negative value. Probably. Well, the problem is if the duration is longer than our length, then we have a problem. But let's not put buffer checks that are longer than 60 frames. Shall we? Deal with it later. Okay. And then we can easily cancel now. So why was having 15 frames such a problem? And I can just do a quick check where I hit stop, I press again, go forward, I've released, don't have it on my button on the thing, and the move comes out. Okay. So what was wrong with having 15 frames? Is it just like how long was our hit stop actually? I think it was like 9 frames, right? It wasn't that long. Jump on this side real quick. Hit stop is 10 frames. Okay. That's fine. Let me press the button here. Hit stop and it comes out. I think the issue, well, it's pretty easy now. Now it works, huh? And just for demonstration purposes, I want to go in and say, what if like the buffer is only 2 frames? Do we get the move to come out during hit stop? Answer is no, but it's kind of no, right? If I delay the attack after hit stop, it comes out. Or if I press the button 2 frames before hit stop's over, well, that's not 2 frames, that's 3 frames technically. So off by 1 error, so I go to 1, press the button, it should come out. There we go. Yeah, so I think it's something to do with the way I was indexing the buffer here. I probably was getting a negative value or 0 or something. Something probably was going on. But this ensured that we don't get... Actually, I should have modulated... This is not actually what I wanted to do, but it actually does work out because we're doing a mod check inside of this function. But this is kind of a leaky abstraction because we know this has a modus. But we did say an on frame, and this is a valid frame. Yeah, so this is not the best thing clarity wise. We really want to pass in the current frame, right, for the game. Because we call this function called was input press on frame, but we don't actually have any way to get the current game frame this way. One thing we could do is have like a singleton that pulls in the game frame. Pretty much singletons are used all over the game development, so it's like a fight I've given up trying to avoid using singletons, so I might just introduce that so that we can quickly get the game frame and just have it here so we don't have to pass everything through a chain of function calls with like a context variable, right? I don't want to have every function have a context. That's huge pain. Anywho, yeah, is there any questions about this? I think we got made some good progress on this whole like canceling thing. I think I pointed out a few common issues with how cancels can be implemented, how buffering can be implemented when it comes to special canceling. And I think going from here, we'll continue working on this stuff. Where's my planning notes? Where's my planning notes? I don't want to do that. Just go to planning. There we go. So, yeah. What do we do here? Yeah. So we stored a special action type. We didn't really need that actually, but we support per character cancels. We don't have that. We just have pretty much just a cancel during the action, so that's fine. At some point, we want to support something like that. Support a per action cancels. That's kind of what we have at this point, but we only have one attack, so we don't really have any generic like move list and stuff. So a lot of this stuff we can't really support at the moment, but we did support canceling on hit, which is fantastic. And everything else is kind of going. We did supported buffered positive edge inputs. Cool, we did that as well. And this is going to go to the future, to some future stream. But yeah, while we're waiting, is there anything that anybody wants to ask about this, or anything that relates to game development or life or whatever? Anything's fine. I'm here to answer all questions. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just submit my changes. Oof. Okay, here we go. Common states. What do I do with it? Somebody sprayed water on my window, and that was quite shocking. I think I got all the changes here. Oh, we got a character change. Okay. Sweet. I know it's a very brief comment on that change. I apologize. But I'm fading here, so I'm going to leave it as and leave it up to the as an exercise to the reader to figure out actually all the details. I don't know if you have done it, but how would one come up with a move set? I think you're just talking about having like a list of actions associated with inputs. One thing you could do is just per action you would have like, again, you have these properties like what is the required input to execute it, and you could have that like in the gameplay data, in the character data, like we had here, right? Character JSON file. Yeah, you could per action you could just have like a parameters like input, activation input or whatever, and then some process in your game goes through all the actions and checks what the input is, and at some stage or in a particular state where you actually want to allow that type of action to cancel, you check those inputs. That's one way to do it. You could have it at a more global level. You could have like a big check that happens before any of the actions are actually executed, and goes through all the actions of the game and see which inputs are valid for every action, and maybe say potentially, okay, all these actions could be executed this frame, And then at another point, you decide what actions are actually transitioned to based on other conditions, right? You may have context-sensitive conditions, like one that we had before for the special cancel was we had to make sure that attack actually hit, and it was after hit stop. Those kind of things. There's many approaches you can take. Ultimately, depends like on the complexity of your game. Sometimes designers ask for things that require you to do something at a certain stage in your game update, a particular place in code, which means you have to refactor a lot of stuff, or you have to introduce new state so that you can like cache some thing that you checked. That becomes a huge pain. Again, a lot of stuff becomes super context dependent. Now, I mentioned that you could put the input commands inside the data structure for the action itself. But the other way to do it is actually have a kind of a global move list that has like, here's all the actions that you can perform and the inputs required, right? And then you can just loop over that list instead. Depending on like what the requirements are for your game, one might make sense for the other. Maybe it makes it easier for the designers to have a global list for them to go in and modify the inputs instead of like trying to find the action and modifying it there. Maybe some performance reason where that makes sense. So you don't have to like loop through and pull into cache all the different actions, full data structure every time you just want to check the motion command, or sorry, just the input command. Yeah, these are all kind of trade-offs you have to consider. I've done them all the different ways, Anyway, kind of fading here. So, yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that and finish the stream. For anyone who's come by, I really appreciate it. As always, I hope you all can make it again to the next stream. We'll continue on this combo stuff, on this cancel stuff and input buffering. Maybe get some juggling and hit reactions that allow you to continue combos in the air. But until then, see y'all soon. Have a good one.